Welcome, everybody, to today's episode, a conversation that we want to have about managing anxiety the Silva Method way. There's some really cool techniques. Please do yourself a favor, stay to the end because I have a very special guest today, a colleague, a friend, somebody I admire and I'm so happy to know, who is actually a living example of using the Silva Method tools like the three fingers technique, the long relax, mental house cleaning. And that's what our intention is here. If you're a Silva Method fan or a practitioner in particular, this is for you to help you deepen your understanding of the tools and how you can apply them, and hopefully to inspire you to take action. And because if you work with these tools, they work, you get results. If you don't, well, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? If you're new to the Silva Method, this is also meant to inspire you, to give you a taste, to give you a bit of a preview of what you can expect. This is an age-old program, goes back to 1966. My name is Ken Coscia. I serve as the training director. I'm the senior most instructor, still not in age, although I don't mind saying, 74 this year. There are still some few years older than me. But it's funny, when I first started, I was the youngest on the planet, 1971. And yet this program dates back to 66. It's a blessing. It's an honor to do it. And one of the blessings is our guest today is Erica Morales. She is a Silva instructor, a colleague, someone who I've had the pleasure, the opportunity. We collaborate together. I've had the opportunity to mentor her. And she teaches the Silva Method in the San Francisco Bay Area, beautiful part of the world. And she's also almost her whole life using the tools. I'm going to save that for her, but she started as a graduate participant at the ripe age of 12. So you can do the math and figure out her age. Not that it's a big secret with that. And I wrote down some things to look, and I'm not going to say because I want to save it for Erica to share in some of her story because it encapsulates what our topic is today. Today, I think any time in history, there are things that can contribute to feelings of worry, anxiety, maybe some despair, maybe feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, which cause us to go into fear mode. And when that happens, we're stuck. If we go into fear mode, survival mode, we think in scarcity consciousness, and the brain takes over, back part of the brain, and the back part is not about growth or progress. So this is really could be a game changer for you. Very, very important topic anytime, and especially nowadays. So please say hello. I know this is a recording you're watching, but give a round of applause or welcome to Erica Morales. Hey, Erica, good to see you.
Hey Ken, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I just want to say thank you so much for having me and for continuing to do this work and just keeping the Silva Method alive. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And now you're part of that too. I look,
Yeah,
it slipped my mind when did you start teaching officially, the class?
it was in 2021, so I'm in my fourth year as being an instructor.
And one of the things I've always enjoyed about you too is there's a saying when I grew up in the Silva Method at 19, there was a lot of Lone Ranger syndrome because Jose called it mind control, self mind control, thinking for yourself, being your own person, taking command of your life. But I think we early instructors misunderstood that because nobody does it alone. And we all
Hmm.
need like minds, mentors, coaches, people we can run ideas off of. And that's what I've enjoyed about you is that you're very skilled. You know what you're doing. You've got that. And yet you're not afraid or embarrassed to ask questions, about material, about something that you experience. And I'm not just saying that, Erica, and people watching this is because there are countless instructors who really go it alone. And it always concerns me because when people get to a point in their life that they think they don't need help or that they know it all, that's like closing the window to opportunities to grow, to evolve, and to do even better. And
Absolutely. There's always room for growth, so
That's my motto. I feel like the more I know, the less I know. It's it's wild because it never stops every time we do a class. And the class we're talking about, we used to call it way back before. Well, actually, this is what Erica took at the ripe age of 12, what we
Yeah.
call the basic lecture series. We still have the
Mm.
program, by the way, but we updated. And we, by a clear intention in 2007, I call it the Renaissance, we realized we were still stuck in the mentally, mindset wise, in the 60s and 70s. So we then and now continue to make a concentrated effort to update. A lot of the research today didn't exist in Jose Silva's time, the neuroscience in particular, and the words to make it more relevant to the present, to speak the same language, so to speak. And Erica's a real good shiny example of that too, is that I know that she keeps up to date so that she can improve how she connects with people, what we now call Silva Life and Intuition System. And it can be spit.
Absolutely.
All
It's
right.
funny because I like to say, and I think this is very accurate when I say this, is that the science is finally catching up to
Mhm.
Jose Silva. He was truly a visionary and a pioneer. And I actually had a chance to meet him. Did you know that?
No, as a matter of fact, I don't remember you ever telling me that. You met him in California?
Yeah. No, in Livermore. I mean, in Laredo, Texas. After I graduated the Silva Method,
Yeah.
my family moved to Laredo, Texas. And that's where Jose Silva had
Yeah.
his
Yeah. And did we
business.
ever meet down there? Did you ever see me there?
I was a teenager.
I said you didn't pay
Probably
attention.
I was in high school by that time, and if I had, I mean, I'm sure we did
I know
because
what
I would
an
go to the
Yeah, what an ego, right? I'm only asking because since I started, I've been to almost every year there and the conventions. And starting around 1980, I started helping instructors. We'd have presentations and I was on the
Mm,
team. So since that time, anyway, it was
we must have crossed paths because I was there from 80, I think it was 86 to 89. So
sure, for sure. Then if you were there,
you must have
big
been there.
conferences, and I used to be master of ceremonies frequently, and I was always, I love, I guess I was always photobombing. They were doing things. So
I hear you.
this is great. It's good chatting with you. But as we promised people, Erica, let's dive into this now. And I think people could really benefit from your story and how you managed the anxiety and what you had at that age. It's very common for teenagers, isn't it? Not just girls, but boys too, at any time to go through the stuff. And so would you be kind enough to just give us a little bit of some of the details and what it was like?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, most definitely. So I was 12 years old, and I just remember coming home from school, and all of a sudden, fear would start to creep in. And it would get so debilitating because I couldn't really do anything else. I was just so afraid. And it's not like anything was going on around me. Like if I hadn't heard a noise or something, it just fear started to creep in. And I think most people would call that anxiety nowadays, but back then
Hmm.
they didn't really, that word wasn't really used very often, as at least as often as it's used now. But I would end up calling my mom on the phone. I'd go to the kitchen, back when we had telephones in the kitchen. And I would call my mom, and she would be like, "What's the matter? What's wrong? What's going on?" And I was like, "I have no idea. I'm just afraid. Can you please come home?" And nine times out of 10, she couldn't. She was at work. Sometimes she would send my grandmother, which was great. And then I would just sit there in fear, waiting for somebody to come home so that I could calm down, really. But luckily for me, my mom, she had taken the Silva Method. She was a recent graduate, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to take the Silva Method?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure." And I did. And one funny thing is, she's like, "You want to take it alone?" And I thought, "Yes, I want to take it alone. I don't want you to come." And what she understood was, "Do you want to take it by yourself?" So I took the course by myself at 12 years old. I went to Sybil's house for 4 days, and she just showed me all the tools and techniques. And I have to say, like after that first day, it was incredible because she taught me that I was in control of my mind. And that was just, that did it for me. That was life changing for me. Just that knowledge. And I thought, oh, wait a second. I don't have to sit here and, you know, be the victim, basically. I could take control over my life. And I did so with the mental house cleaning technique and the long relax. Those are the two techniques that really helped me with the anxiety.
Wow. You said this is day number one.
Yeah,
No, it's a 4-day training in day one. And I've often said, I've always, since I started, allowed 8 years old to 12 in class with me with the adults. I don't believe in, quote, a children's class. They may hear more than they need, but they're my best students. They pick it up quicker as long as they want to be there. If mom or dad
yeah,
forced them to come, no, I would ask them to leave. But if they really want to be there, and one of the parents is already a graduate who can then, coach them, support them, fantastic. An example. So could you elaborate? Just for those who don't know, the long relax is a progressive relaxation technique. The Silva Method is a verbal training technique, tool, excuse me, which means we talk a lot. However,
yeah.
we're the original alpha theta program, teaching people how to lower their brain waves. If you see behind me, the blue is beta, waking state, the green, the red, the black, our sleeping state. And Mr. Silva, in studying meditation, studying hypnosis, and kind of married the two together and looking at other things, developed a technique to help lower the brain waves and stay awake. It's very similar to meditation, with that into the alpha thetas. So we use relaxation. There are many ways to do it. A lot of cool tools out there. We use relaxation, progressive relaxation, hence the big relax or the long relaxation exercise. And it's about 30 minutes and it's foundational. Online marketing people have called it, like at Mind Valley, centering exercise, but it's
Hmm.
complete. Erica and I now teach the more updated version that has everything in it, the proper sound, the et cetera, et cetera. And I hear this all the time from people. It's a game changer because when you do the long relax, if you don't mind me saying, Erica commenting, it puts you into homeostasis. And when that happens, the body
Yeah,
heals itself. So can you elaborate? Like,
absolutely.
what was it about that you enjoyed, or what did you notice when you started practicing the guided meditations, even in day one?
Yeah, like specifically for the long relax, the reason that I loved it so much is that you realize the power that you have just by using your mind, you could affect your body. And that was so incredible to me. That really just gave me the evidence that I needed to say, hey, you know what? I'm in charge. I'm in control of me, right? So that's what I really loved. Aside from the obvious benefit, which is relaxing your entire body and putting yourself, like you said, into homeostasis. But it was just, it's that confirmation of knowing that
Wow.
my mind is in charge. I can control my body. So I thought, okay, then I can control my mind and my thoughts. I can choose the thoughts that I want to have. So it's just confirmation for me that this stuff really works, you know?
Wow. I'm impressed. All this in day one.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it
I
was
wish,
incredible.
do you ever wish that all of our students were like that, responding so openly in day one? Some people take to get to day four because it's not a quick fix and everybody
Mhm.
brings their own life in with them, so to speak. But if I could comment, just as you go back and forth, what I hear you saying is you acknowledged and felt that because you felt really good. And maybe for the first time, you felt in control and you
Yeah,
felt at ease. And when that happens, we feel hopeful and optimistic. And when that happens, it's a result of the brain chemistry changing, creating more dopamine and moving us out of survival mode, scarcity consciousness, stress mode into higher thinking functions. And when that happens, we're more likely to have intuitive insights, access our higher thinking functions. That's why it's such an important foundational exercise.
absolutely.
When you say about So then you, uh, it sounds like integrated the mental house cleaning. For those of you new, it's just a term Jose created to manage your inner dialogue. And also nowadays you hear words make a difference. Well, they do make a big difference. And the way we speak to ourselves, especially when we're challenged, or as Erica, you were saying, you're home and for no apparent reason, you're feeling afraid and frightened and anxious. And mom, please come home. And there was no funny noises. There was no one banging on the door. It's not like something happened at school. And
Hmm.
I don't know that I've ever had that, but I can say I call myself, I used to be the CEO of Warriors Anonymous, if there was such a organization, because I would
Hmm.
worry about things and catastrophize and jump to the worst possible scenario. And I'm convinced that's why I used to live on Anacin for headaches. And
Mm.
much like you, though I was a bit older, using the long relax and the mental house clean and also the headache control. I was
Yeah.
able to control, eliminate headaches without drugs, and eventually I stopped getting headaches. But it's holistic. It wasn't just the relaxation, but also managing the dialogue. So could you expand on that? Can you give us some examples of what was going on in your experience in your head at the time that you found the mental house cleaning helped you to take charge?
Absolutely. And it's like you said, thoughts are things. And my mind at 12 years old was just completely out of control. I wasn't really thinking about the thoughts that were popping into my head and managing them. And that's why I love the mental house cleaning because it is such a simple technique. That cancel just neutralizes whatever fearful thought, worry thought, catastrophizing thought, all of those different thoughts that pop into your head, and you don't want to experience these things. But if you're just like, oh, going with the flow, you don't know about mental house cleaning, that could really take hold of you and just drag you down into a dark hole. But I loved having this tool because the Silva method isn't a magic pill. I like to say it's consistent practice, right? And it's not like I took the mental house cleaning and I magically was cured from having fearful thoughts or worry or anxiety. It's a technique that I use every single day, even anytime a thought pops into my head that I don't want to experience, whether you're catastrophizing about something that may happen. It's just a quick cancel. And I love it because it's just so simple. You don't have to take out your manual to say, okay, how do you do that again? It's just cancel, and then replacing that fearful thought. So, yeah, if like, oh my goodness, I'm so afraid I'm not going to pass my test. Cancel. I've studied, well enough, and I know that I'm going to remember everything I need to know to make a good grade on my test, or whatever it is, that at 12 years old, those thoughts that were popping into my head, it was just a cancel, and the replacement. And I like to, when I'm doing my classes, I like to emphasize the replacement thought because I think it's so easy for people to get into the cancel. Remember in the 80s when I remember in Laredo specifically, people going cancel. And it's important to replace the thought. So, what I suggest to my students is when you become aware of a habitual thought, write it down and figure out what you would prefer to experience. Like, what's that replacement thought? Write that one down and just keep it in your pocket. That way, anytime it comes up, you or on your phone, you just pick up your phone and then you can read it out loud and just replace it so that you're not scrambling for, okay, how am I going to replace this thought? You're prepared. So, yeah, the mental house cleaning, didn't just use it once, I use it every single day. Anytime fearful thoughts come in, worry thoughts, especially, I'm a mom of a teenage
Oh boy.
boy now. Yeah, and he just started football practice and he loves it.
And you
So, those fearful thoughts that could pop in, I'm like, nope, I don't want to play there. Cancel. He is safe. I know he's protected and safe and everything's going to be fine.
I can relate. You'd almost hope that he wouldn't like it and go out for tennis or something or
I have tried. Yesterday was his first class, and I mean, his first training. And I was like, so how did it go? And he's like, I loved it. And I was like, oh no, cancel, cancel. You're going to be perfectly fine. So, yeah.
Let me comment on that as a courtesy to people who are not familiar with in detail Silva. Jose didn't, if you read any of the Silva Method books, there's dozens specifically about the program. You can see some behind me um, for that. It's a pattern interrupter.
Mm.
In psychology, that's what they call. And Jose didn't use that language. Jose never went to school a day in his life. He didn't have that. A lot of what he developed was intuitive, and he read a lot and he studied and he looked for common denominators. He looked for universal principles. And he would say, I didn't do anything new. I basically organized and structured these age-old principles. So the pattern interrupters, we all have patterns of behavior. And I was laughing with you, Erica, so many accounts. When I was in school, I came to realize after I did Silva, those of you who know my story, I was flunking out. I was in engineering at Boston University. And even though I had the aptitude, even though I had B plus in a private school in Brooklyn, New York, Severian High School, preparing me with chemistry, because I was worried. All of a sudden, something about college, I was so worried. Can I do this? Am I going to pass? This is getting close to my life. I got to get it. And all that worry created the headaches, the stress. And when you're stressed, you don't learn, you don't remember.
Hmm.
Now I realize, and I'm sure yourself too, the big thing was it's not like Silva gave me the brain power. I have the brain power. You have the brain power. We all have brain power. But it gave me the tools to harness my brain power and to stop sabotaging ourselves, as I hear you saying
Absolutely.
with that. And if I can comment parent to parent, even in
Hmm.
relationships, in anything, before we started our recording here, folks, Eric and I were comparing notes. And I have three children and now three grandchildren. And it's hard not to speak up and have those worrisome thoughts. And the worst part about it is when we worry about our children, we create these maybe catastrophize or worst case scenarios. What if he's late because he got in an accident? He could be dead. He could be lying in a ditch. Or sorry, I'm reliving some of the teenage years. Cancel,
Yeah,
cancel for your boy.
I get it.
But then what happens is they come home and they're safe, and we're all like this, and then we yell, we scream, and then we alienate them. Worrying
Hmm.
does nothing but create distress in our bodies. Our thoughts are catalysts to feelings, and those feelings cause the brain to release the brain chemicals, which take over the physiology. And it doesn't help them. In fact, instead of saying, I was so concerned, I'm so glad to see you home, you're safe. I know it's hard to be that way, but that would be more loving and that would be the ideal versus, where you been? I can't believe it. You're so late. Because we were
Yeah.
worrying. And then they tune out.
Hmm.
They run away from us. And it's so important. So that pattern, and then the replacement, like what you said, writing it down,
Hmm.
placement. When you interrupt the pattern, you need to do something instead or say something instead of or have a replacement. Excellent for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why I love the mental house cleaning. Because, I do have those thoughts that pop in because I have a teenager and those thoughts, they pop in, but now it's like, nope, I'm not going to play there. I'm not going to sit, and I love the word play because, it's high vibrating, but I guess you wouldn't call this play, but I'm not going to hang out in those fear-based, negative, really low vibrating thoughts. And then that's just going to drag me down. And I've found throughout my life that it's so much easier to do the practice, to really do the practice and stay on top of my Silva practice than it is to just allow my mind just to go crazy and follow every single thought. Because next thing you know, I'm in a dark hole trying to crawl myself out. But when I stay in practice, it's just my life is so much better and easier. And I'm able to not have those anxiety attacks like I did when I was 12 years old,
That's a
you
really
know?
important takeaway, what you just said, because let's face it, we're all pressured time. And the biggest excuse me, with respect and lovingly, it's a big excuse. I haven't got enough time. What I hear Erica saying is, I don't want to go down that deep, dark black hole again. And it was horrible living like that. You, and when you contrast, so it's not about faking it, it's about acknowledging the challenge, the difficulty, the past experience, but not making it worse, telling the
Hmm.
truth. And and once we do that, we're done. Then we focus on what it is we want. And I've had to do that myself too, is that no way do I want to go back to that. No way do I want to live like that. I much rather, and it's important, folks, what Erica's saying in so many words is she keeps in mind the value, the benefit of her using the tools. She's a better mom. She's a better wife. She's a better friend. They have more fun because she's not like this, worrying excessively. It's a
Absolutely.
horrible enemy, worry.
I mean, I think that that is definitely a foundational tool that Jose Silva came up with. And I always tell my students, this is the most important tool. For me, that is the most important tool. Like if I had one to take out of the Silva method, and if you forced me and said you can only pick one, I would pick mental house cleaning, hands down, because that's your foundation, right? How can you create
Exactly.
from there, from anxiety, worry, doubt?
I'm smiling, laughing because I catch myself in class saying that yes, I know it's very elementary, it's very basic. Manage your thoughts, words make a difference, but just because it's common sense doesn't mean it's common practice. And I think, but I agree with you, Erica. I too think it's very foundational. If you don't have that foundation, you're screwed. You could be the most
Yeah.
spiritual being. And I know a lot of very spiritual beings, and there are more and more highly successful, very wealthy entrepreneurs, and they're miserable. They're unhappy. They've been through three, four marriages, etc., because they're not managing their lives, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So it really is. So, for example, I wonder if this you've had this. I've done hundreds and hundreds of classes. I just celebrate 54 years. Okay, you're 4 years, but you've been practicing for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
You find it never goes away. Every time I
Mm-mm.
have a new class, or we were earlier in the year, excuse me, I went to Australia, then I remember Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I'm with a new group, even though I know what I know, I'm a little bit more, I want to say tense, pensive.
Energy. There's
Yeah, I
just a
call
little
it
bit more
creative
energy.
unrest. It doesn't go,
Yeah,
but I catch myself saying, you got this, Kenny. You can do it. You can do it. You've been there before. You've done it so many times. Just to, like you said, cancel, and then the replacement. Because
hmm
if we allow ourselves to wallow in it, it just gets worse. It builds up steam. Why?
hmm
Because the brain takes things literally at a subconscious level, which is what rules our existence. We're all run by our subconscious and so-called unconscious. And if we don't manage it, it takes things literally as if we actually experienced it. We're programming ourselves inadvertently. It's like when people worry, they're inadvertently mentally rehearsing what they don't want. And they wonder why they're
exactly.
stuck. The surest
hmm
way to get unstuck is what Erica's saying. Practice mental house cleaning and manage your thoughts, manage your inner dialogue. Because if you don't, you're going to be mentally rehearsing what you don't want. And whatever you give attention to, you give energy to, whatever you give energy to, will grow and multiply. So my question is, do you notice when you go to do a class, a new group that is, that you're a little bit more stressed or tense than usual momentarily? It doesn't matter how long it lasts, but I'm wondering, do you find that still happening?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's all about perception, because I could perceive that maybe it's nerves or in a negative way, but I choose to see it. And this is kind of a mental house cleaning for that. It's like, no,
Mhm.
cancel, cancel. This is energy because I'm excited for what's to come, and then just always using my three fingers together and getting aligned and just asking to be guided every single step of the way. And that's one of my favorites is I, I give it to God. It's like I'm not in control.
Mhm.
I am guided every single step of the way. And that's another tool or technique that I just absolutely love is the three fingers technique, and I use that for guidance and alignment and congruency. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely there is energy, especially with the new class. But after getting into alignment, doing a quick meditation, and just asking to be guided, and even just giving up the my words, and it's like, guide me to say the correct words for every single person that's here so that they may have a transformation or an awakening. How can I serve is basically the mantra. How can I serve? Use me to be of service here to this new group. And I know you experienced this too, that shortly after, when you start to meet and talk with everyone, it's like, oh, I love this. This is wonderful.
I've often thought if that feeling goes away, it's time to leave. Because to me, my
Mm,
perspective is it shows that you care, Erica. It shows
hmm
that you want to do a job. Listen to what you just said. I want to be of service. I want to connect with them so that they really get the message and connect with us deeply, the tools. Because, folks, you could read a book, you could take any of the home studies. They're great. They'll introduce you, but they are far, far, far cry from when you're with Erica in class or any instructor who knows what they're doing, like Erica, in person, live like that. It's a night and day difference. And that would be my challenge for people who just, reading the books, the Silva books or whatever, or the home study, or Mind Valley's 12 hours of pre-recorded videos. Night and day difference. I hear this all the time. People, now
hmm
I get it. Now I know what to do. And you leave, and it's a shameless
Yeah.
plug for the class, but I mean it sincerely. That's what I've observed.
hmm
And like Eric, I don't need to do this anymore. My family's grown and we could sit back. But I don't believe in retirement. And I do it because I want to make a contribution. And that's what I meant before by that feeling. It tells me I care because I want to do a job.
hmm
Very different. You're saying very different than saying, oh my God, can I do it again? Oh my God, will they like me? Which when I first started, I admit that was part of the attitude. Eric, I have
Yeah.
to comment again, Eric. There's a lot of words of wisdom, pearls here, and takeaways that I'm hearing you say. She said, I just let God, or some of you may say, let the universe guide me, let source guide me, let energy, who cares? But I can tell you, if you look at the neuroscience studies based on brain scans, over 10, 15,000 brain scans, in a breakthrough book by Dr. Andrew Newberg and Mark Robert Waldman, How God Changes Your Brain, and they tested all these gizmos that you can buy online to improve neuroplasticity. And they found, and they made a list of 8 common things. And Erica, what you just said is so important for people here, is they found the number one most important, and this is why they called the book what they did. It's a play to get attention. The title is faith. Having a faith that we're being guided, that we're not alone, that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. Whatever you want to call that. We're not here to proselytize, but I'm a faith-based person. I have no
hmm
clue, but I know we're not alone.
hmm
I know that we're part of a collective of energy, source for all energy. We know that more and more science attempting to explain. But what you said, when we let go like that, and I find that what we're doing in the Silva Method now currently, not in the old basic lecture series, but we took some of Jose's advanced material, which is Erica may remember when she did that class, and added this aspect of guidance, added this aspect of source and being consciously aware. It begins with self-awareness. And when you have that kind of awareness, you can direct it, focus it, turn it on and off, so to speak, rather than, oh, please, please, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I tell my students also, is that the Silva method is not a belief system. We're not telling you what you need to believe. You need to bring your own beliefs to these tools and techniques. So just depending on whomever whatever you believe in, if it's, what's your word, source energy, universal source, universal energy, or the universe, that's fine. I'm not, like you said, I'm not here to tell you what to believe in, but yeah, the tools and techniques work beautifully, I believe, with any belief system because it's not a belief system, it's a structure, it's a foundation that you can build from.
Perhaps you remember one way to define belief, everyone says change or limiting beliefs. One way to reframe that is having the confidence or the belief that somehow, some way, I'll figure it out. May take
Hmm.
100 years, may take 10 minutes. When you have that kind of, what I hear you saying, Erica, that kind of belief, it keeps us with hope. And I'm not a
Yeah,
psychologist, nor is Erica, at least as far as I know, nor a therapist, but I'm very skilled and very knowledgeable. And a precursor to depression is feeling helpless and hopeless.
mm,
And loneliness has become a big problem for people. And one of the things that I really enjoy about knowing you, Erica, and our fellow instructors is we're like-minded. We can get together and support each other, encourage each other. And when we're in classes with people, we're attracting people, from different backgrounds, different nationalities, different ages. Sometimes I've had 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and I've got somebody in their 80s, early 80s, and everybody in between in the middle. But we're all there with a common purpose, mission. And that to me is like magic. And when there's trust in the group, whoa, it's one of the big benefits again of in person in a class, well,
absolutely.
instructor.
I find that as well, no matter what age groups are in there, because I have had that range as well. I had an 11-year-old and somebody who was
Wow.
78 years old, and it's great to see them and interact and supporting each other. And that energy that's in that room is just so beautiful and incredible. And you can, use that energy for your benefit, when you're doing the meditations and stuff like that. So
I can see
it's
that
it's
you
such
love
a
doing this.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say hands down the best way to experience the Silva method is an in-person class. But those other options are great too.
And they help to get you started.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could say we're biased because we offer that. But I think
Mhm.
speaking for myself, I think I speak for you too, Erica. I've certainly demonstrated that I care and that I'm in integrity. And it's not just about having more people in the class. We're on a mission to help people to evolve because with all the chaos going on, I
Mhm.
find that if people are just in our classes, people are a little bit kinder. Every time I'm in a hotel, a venue, I hear from the staff, "Oh my God, your people are so friendly. They're so nice." Because they're used to people yelling at them and being rude to them. They
Mm,
love
yeah.
us. And they
Mhm.
bring us cookies, trays of chocolate chip cookies. You remember when you were in Farmington with us? They put stuff out. They
Yeah.
can't do enough because it's so it's so different what they're used to. And I realized I've been in this bubble, living in this bubble, doing these classes because we're not perfect. We're far from perfect. And we all have our moments. But when you're in that energy of people who are working on being a little bit kinder, a little bit more loving, a little more generous, we need so much more of that. Jose would say, we got to turn this planet into a paradise. I have trouble relating to that. That's too big for me. But I can think of it in our classes or one person at a time.
Absolutely. I
So
can't tell you how many times I've heard my students say, every single person needs to learn these tools and techniques. Several different classes, different people, always resonating that back to me. And I agree. It certainly transformed my life and made my life so much more, I don't want to say easier because, we have our trials and tribulations, things that happen, people pass away, maybe you lose jobs, whatever. But I've always had the Silva Method tools and techniques to use during those times.
uh, before time flies by, as I always,
Mm,
you mentioned three fingers technique. Could you just, folks, we're not here to teach the tools because we spent 4 days, 40 hours of training. Obviously, there isn't that time. But Erica, can you elaborate how you have integrated, if you did three fingers technique with maybe mental house cleaning or managing anxiety or managing the common concerns we have for our children? Right.
absolutely. Just even programming in with the three fingers technique that, it's just a trigger mechanism, as you know, but by putting your three fingers together, putting my three fingers together, that when I do that, I'm going to be centered and grounded. I'm going to feel calm. It's a great way to remember that I'm in control of me, of my body. And if I intend to feel a certain way, I expect to feel that way. And so I've programmed in, I think I mentioned earlier, guidance. So
Hmm.
that when I put my three fingers together, many times when I'm at the grocery store, where whatever, I'm like, what else do I need to remember? One time I did that and somebody walked by and they were talking about pasta sauce, and I was like, oh, thank you. That's exactly what I needed.
That's
Or,
funny.
of course, parking spaces. That's always a favorite. And I think Jose Silva didn't like for people to do that. But yeah, but to me, it's just further confirmation after confirmation. Like, this stuff really does work. It's incredible. I love it. But yeah, you can program your three fingers technique for so many different things. The sky's the limit. But as far as maintaining calm, oftentimes, if I'm having a conversation, one of those teenager conversations.
Uh,
You just put your three fingers together, stay centered and calm, and and
mhm.
go from there. But yeah, that's another one of my most favorite tools and techniques is the three fingers. And you can use that throughout the day, every day. And I do.
Allow me to elaborate a little bit, Erica. I want people to understand. It's not that Jose didn't like us doing that.
No.
When he started his research in 44, he started, we call it an act of love. His in Laredo at the time, perpetuating a poverty level. Young people rarely completed school, were dropping out mainly because they had to help generate income for the family. Jose was an example. He never went to school a day in his life. At the age of 5, he had a business. Age of 80, he had two businesses. Really?
Wow.
And so he's self-taught. However, so he designed this tool. All it is first you get yourself, like I say, in a guided meditation or some slow, deep breathing. You could do it after getting a wonderful full body therapeutic massage, and you associate. It's called neuro-associative conditioning. You could do anything. There's no magic to the three fingers just because
Hmm.
yogis use it. Is you're making it when you're in that actually in that state, you make like what Erica said, that this is all I need to do to stay calm like I am now during the day while I'm shopping, while I'm having a discussion with my son, etc., to stay calm and focused. So the point is, there's no special magic to it. We create it. It's a tool, as she called it, a trigger mechanism that we anchor a feeling of success, a feeling of calm that we've actually are in. And all you have to do is, so just gave you folks a sample. You could do that yourself with this. So Jose called them the spices because his children started doing better in school. And what started happening was, again, when you're calm and you're relaxed, you remember better, you learn more. Everybody knows if you're
Mm.
stressed, you're not going to learn much. But then they started having psychic experiences. They started anticipating his questions. And that was the game changer. He said, gee, I must be onto something of more value than just memory improvement. And that led him, which is a whole nother topic, into
Mhm.
researching that. So, thank you, Eric. I just want to elaborate that it's a tool that you can use to bring a conscious awareness with you, to be mindfully present, if you will, to be consciously present with whatever you're doing while driving, getting parking spaces. Jose called them the spices. And it's funny you said that, Erica,
I
because
love that.
I could still see Jose's face. We would be, for Jesus, since the early 80s, I have been working with instructors on the team. Now I'm the official training director for and have been for a long time, since 2007, actually. However, do the math. But I've always been involved. And we would do our thing, instructors, guiding the new instructors. And Jose would come in and he'd sit there and he was a very serious guy and he'd make a face. I never intended to be used this way. And he frowned. He loosened up as time went by. He really did. And I think in some of the books he even refers to them as the spices because people.
Mm. I love that.
Do you have yourself a, a good example or something how you've used your intuition with using three fingers? Like you mentioned about the spaghetti sauce and needing that, the marinara sauce, but how about like while driving or something preventing a near miss or in class?
Absolutely. Yes, all of the time. That's why I like to refer to the Silva method really as almost even a walking meditation. It kind of forces you, because of the tools and techniques that you use, it almost, it not forces, but opens the door wide open for you to live more consciously in the present moment, because you have these tools and techniques like putting your three fingers together, like the mental house cleaning, cancel, cancel. It, at least for me, the way that it's worked is to keep me present, right? In my everyday life, living in the now, right? But intuition, absolutely, all the time using my three fingers technique. And I've even gotten, to where I don't necessarily have to put my three fingers technique. I mean, to put my three fingers together. But one time I was at a stoplight and I was going to turn to the left. And usually I was the first person there. The light turned green and I did not move. It was something holding me back, and I was perfectly at peace for some weird reason, because usually I'm like, okay, light's green, put the gas on. And I sat there 10 seconds maybe. Somebody from the other side going straight, just not even the first person, the second person, he passed up that first person in line and zoomed across. So had I put that pedal to the metal and made my little turn, there would have been an accident for sure.
Well, you may not have
And
me. I'm so happy that you trusted your intuition.
exactly. Yeah. And so many different instances. A lot of my examples are also at the grocery store because I do that a lot, remembering to purchase things and, receiving thoughts. Like this one time, I got this thought, Erica, buy vanilla extract. And, I had that half a second, millisecond where I was like, I already have vanilla extract, but it came in such a way where I was like, oh, this is my guidance. Let me do it. So I was like, let me play. It's only going to cost me a few dollars. So I bought the vanilla extract. And later on that week, I decided to make a vanilla cake. So it was 1 tablespoon of vanilla. And I thought, okay. So I grabbed my old bottle. And wouldn't you know it, I didn't have enough vanilla extract. And I was like, oh, thank you. I accidentally bought a bottle that I didn't think I needed, and I did. So, yes, intuition all the time in every single aspect of my life.
Something you said earlier, Erica, which I think is another takeaway for people, is Silva is a step-by-step system that you follow. And you said it's a practice and it never stops. Just because
Hmm.
you started at 12 and you did a turnaround in your life, and now you're obviously older than 12, it's part of living, part of our
Yeah.
lives. But you mentioned it's become a practice. So it begins with an intention, and then there's repetition, it becomes a habit, it becomes then a practice, and eventually it's just who you are. And what I'd like to elaborate on too, that if Eric or I or anyone you know is doing things, you can do the same thing, folks. It's just a matter of getting started. It just and recognize what Eric is not filling in for obvious reasons because of timing is that through the training she's been through and all the years and decades of practicing is you get so familiar with your intuition and you have such feedback that you begin to trust it and you begin to
Hmm.
recognize. So what I hear you saying, she didn't second guess, what's the big deal? It's just a few bucks. I'll buy the vanilla extract. And then a week later, she discovers, good thing I did. I need it. Saved her a step.
Hmm.
At the time, you didn't say, you never know. I might need extra excuse me, vanilla extract. And that,
Yeah.
or the light. I could only imagine people beeping behind. Come on, lady. Come on, let's move it already. The light ain't getting any greener. And she's sitting there, calm as could be.
Yeah.
And I hear these kinds of stories all the time in all of our lives with that. And I would say that we're all intuitive. It is not a gift.
Mm.
It is a gift, but we all have it. It
Yeah.
just needs to be awakened and trained. And that's part of what Erica and I and our fellow instructors have dedicated our lives to. And in the class, another big distinction that part of my intentions, obvious, is that for people to walk away watching this, those who are staying to the end watching, is to understand the distinctions of the value so that you can make an intelligent decision. Is this something for you? Because everybody talks about intuition, it's so important, and I agree. It is. It could save your life.
Hmm.
Maybe save
Yeah.
Derek. save you a lot of money and helps you improve communications and innovations and so on. But how do you know you can really trust it? And that's where the training comes in. So in the Silva class, it's full of deliberate practice. And if you study peak performance studies going way back, it was found that it's the most effective way to learn anything. It only means deliberate practice that you get immediate feedback, not hours later or days or whatever later, but immediate feedback. And that's what we do all during the class. You're practicing the tools, you're going through guided meditations, you're playing games with intuition, and you're getting immediate feedback. And you begin to recognize, okay, I was spot on and I was way off. What's the difference that made the difference? Nobody can tell you that. It's very highly personalized. And Erica, because of all your years and decades, that you said it earlier, it's just become a practice. It's just something you do. You don't even, it's second nature. You probably don't even say, okay, I got to use my three fingers. You just do it.
Hmm.
I had to
Yeah,
catch myself. And
you said it. It's second nature.
yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I know
Hmm.
we could go on, and I think we want to honor everybody's time. Um, those of you who are still here watching this video, good for you. You loved yourself enough. If you would like to find out more, Erica, would you tell them your website? And I'm going to post this on my YouTube channel. Erica would do the same so you can. But what is your website again?
Absolutely. It's Silva Method, bayarea.com.
Silva Method Bay Area. That's easy to remember. Silva Method
Yeah.
Bay Area. Or if you just Google Silva Method San Francisco, she'll pop up there. And Erica's doing regular classes there in the area. Mine is Silva Method of Connecticut or Silva Method CT for that. And there are other instructors too. We've got a whole team of people throughout the US who are really cool people. Eric, I want to thank you for making the time to have this conversation with me. I know you have the demands of your family, which is still younger. They're not really that
Yes, thank
demanding.
you, Ken, for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
You know that's the magic of video games.
Video games or TV. I know we used to cheat that way too for that.
Yeah,
But now we're working on minimizing screen time. I'm talking
yeah.
about the grandchildren. I get in trouble all the time because I have several games on my phone that I play. Grandpa, can I see a video? Grandpa, can I play the game? And they call me the loose link because I frequently say yes, but I've gotten better. Now I don't. I check with their parents and, they get some time, but it's very minimal.
Hmm.
That we go out and play football. Do you have any
I hear you.
closing comments? Anything you want to say to people who have graced us with their presence?
Absolutely. I would say the most important thing after you take the Silva method is to practice. Practice, 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 practice. Because if you're I've run into some people who are saving up their Silva method meditation for something big, and this is a daily meditation. You know, the meditations can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They're quick, they're easy, effective, they work, proven techniques, and you don't have to set aside 30 minutes or an hour to do it. And that's what I love about the Silva method. It's easy and it's practical.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, words of wisdom. And I would say, play with the techniques. Just have fun with them. Explore them with that. And then make sure that you pay attention to the results.
Hmm.
Want to focus on that because that's what will motivate you to do more. Hey, this is worth my time. So you're not taking it for granted. So this has
Absolutely.
been fun. We'll have to do more. And for those of you who are watching, part of my intention as training director is that I'll be interviewing and having conversations with various instructors on different topics. So get a follow. Make sure that you subscribe to Erica. You have a YouTube channel, Erica? All
I
right.
do. It's at Silva Method Bay Area.
Make sure you subscribe to hers. I'd love you to subscribe to mine or follow us if you'd like to get more, because there's a lot of pearls of wisdom. Like she said, practice, a lot of things you could learn. So I'm going to sign off and let me just end this. Well, actually, let me just stop the recording. And again, thank you for being here.